So good afternoon to all of you. We all have assembled here to listen to the 71st SOAFAL oration on the annual theme of integrated maritime studies and research. We are very privileged to have an illustrated Odia as today's speaker on the occasion of the first Vishwa Odia Bhasa Sammilani, which has started in Bhubaneswar in Odisha from today's, and it will be continuing from for 3 days, and the valedictory function is on 5th. We are very privileged, sir, to have you amongst us, though you are in Delhi, but the Odia flavor and everything is still intact, and we are very privileged to have you amongst us, and we will be listening to a very important and burning topic, that is maritime issue in Taiwan Strait. I have the privilege of introducing today's speaker to you, though there is a very long CV, but I will cut short and make it as small as possible so that we can listen to the speaker for a longer period. Professor Dr. Rup Narayan Das obtained his PhD in Chinese Studies from the School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He was also a senior fellow of Indian Council of Social Science Research, affiliated to the Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi. After his retirement in a very senior position of the Secretariat of Indian Parliament in July 2019, and also Taiwan Fellow 2022. Earlier, he was a senior fellow with the Institute for Defence Studies, IDSA, from June 2010 to August 2014 on deputation from Lok Sabha Secretariat. He was also head of the Center for China and East Asia for some time during the stint with IDSA. He has published 2 monographs. His research papers have been published by referred research journals like the Harvard Asia Quarterly, Global Asia, China Report, International Studies, Strategic Analysis, and Journal of Defense Studies China, China Brief of Jamestown Foundation, Washington, China India Brief of Singapore National University. He has participated in Track 2 dialogues with China, Taiwan, Japan, and Mongolia, and has presented papers at national and international conferences. He is a regular columnist in the media. He is a columnist with Rediff News and book reviews with Business Standard. He has been awarded Taiwan Fellowship for 1 year, I hope. And today's topic is maritime issue in Taiwan Strait. I welcome you, sir, to this August lecture series, which is Shiksha Anusandhan Fortnightly Academic Lecture Series. And for our new audience, let me tell that this series started sometimes during the COVID period in February 2021, and we have completed already 50 lectures, which are compiled into annual commemorative volume and published by the university as Volume 1 and SOAFAL Mala Volume 1, SOAFAL Mala Volume 2. Today's lecture is 21st. It is a very special lecture in the sense that all these lectures come under the umbrella of the annual theme of integrated maritime studies and research. After 4 lectures, again these will be compiled into a book which will have a self-value. The researchers and others can refer this book for their research consumption. With these words, I again welcome you, sir, on behalf of the University Outreach Cell and the university as a whole. With these words, now the platform belongs to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Sarma Nachiketa Sarma, for kind, generous words of introduction. And I'm also thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on a subject which is very close to my heart. As rightly pointed out in your introduction, I was a Taiwan fellow and I was in Taiwan for about 9 months. It's a very prestigious fellowship which is selected from the applicants from the world over. And then I was one of them. I was affiliated to National Chungsheng University in Taichung, the second most important city in Taiwan. And my research paper, my research is also on China. I am writing regularly on China, as you correctly pointed out, in various platforms like China Brief from Jamestown, Washington. And so far as Taiwan is concerned, I am a regular contributor to a prestigious English daily Taipei Times from Taipei. Recently, I wrote. And recently, my article on Taiwan was also published in Odisha Post. I write in so many places and speak on different themes. I give lectures on foreign policy issues. Professor Sharma forgot to mention about my latest book, which a copy of which I had presented to him. It's in Hong Kong. The title of the book is called Hong Kong Conundrum, and published by in 2022 by Knowledge World Publisher in Delhi, and in 2023 April, the book was reprinted by Routledge London for distribution in European market. So this is a brief introduction about me. Now turning to this topic, maritime issues in Taiwan Strait. If I just speak on the topic, perhaps there is not much to say, but what I intend to do is that I want to give a comprehensive picture of the Taiwan situation, which is very much in the news. Of course, the crux is the Taiwan Strait. I think before I start giving my lecture, let me just briefly say about Taiwan Strait. Taiwan Strait it separates mainland China, Taiwan from mainland China. It is, I mean, in terms of its maritime, it has a lot of maritime significance in the sense, it connects the South China Sea with East China Sea, and it is very important waterway, and it occupies a very important position in SLOCs, what we call the sea lanes of communication. We call it SLOCs, sea lanes of communication. It, you have heard about Suez Canal crisis, and this is also important critical choke point, very important choke point, and it can, suppose there is a blockade in Taiwan Strait, it may affect maritime trade. And for your information, I must tell you that about $5.3 trillion of trade passes through the Taiwan Strait. That speaks of the, the significance of the Taiwan Strait. These days the trade is mostly seaborne trade. So most, including, what we call petroleum products, they are also, they are imported through sea routes. So like you have, Malacca Strait, that is important, Pak Strait in Sri Lanka, and the Suez Canal. So similarly, Taiwan Strait is of very critical importance for everybody. And now this is, and moreover, there is a contestation about, contestation on the, on, the rights, like jurisdiction. So far as the maritime jurisdiction is concerned, there is a contestation, say for example, China claims that it has its jurisdiction over Taiwan Strait. It is within the competence of the Taiwan, and that is contested by many countries, mostly USA. For example, recently the issue cropped up at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. We must have heard about Shangri-La Dialogue, that is organized by the National University of Singapore, where different leaders from the think tanks are invited to share their thoughts and perspective on critical issues. And in Shangri-La Dialogue in June 22, which was attended by many of the practitioners of foreign policy, including Lord Austin of the US Defense Secretary, and also the China's defense minister participated there. So there are a lot of exchange of, serious exchange of debate with regard to the jurisdiction over the Taiwan Strait. Their Chinese defense minister claimed that the Taiwan Strait belongs to China, and whereas that was challenged by the US Defense Secretary Lord Austin. So this in crux is the significance of the Taiwan Strait. But as I said, if I have only to confine my lecture on Taiwan Strait, then I don't think I have much to say about that. Basically, what I intend to say is that we want to discuss about Taiwan situation in a very comprehensive manner, in which, of course, Taiwan Strait occupies very critical importance. But that is the only one issue, not the entire issue. So I think in a very comprehensive manner, we are going to discuss the Taiwan situation or Taiwan Strait crisis. We are going to discuss how it is so significant in terms of strategy, in terms of security. Because I think Professor Nachiketa Sharma, I'm happy that, the Shiksha Anusandhan Anushthan is dedicated to have a dialogue on maritime issues. That's very critical when we are particularly talking about Indo-Pacific. In fact, there is a seamless connect between Indo-Pacific and the Taiwan Strait, because as I said, Taiwan Strait connects the South China Sea with East China Sea, and it also connects the Malacca Strait, the critical Malacca Strait. So that way it is very important. And so far as Taiwan is concerned, Taiwan is a very small country, maybe smaller than Odisha, maybe in the size of maximum Kerala. It's not more than that, and its population is only 23 million people. But I think all of you know, that it is the leading country in terms of manufacturing of semiconductor, and it is one of the, such a tiny country, but one of the it occupies one of the 20th most developed economy of the world. So that speaks of, and supposing Taiwan falls to China, it too will create a sort of world war. The situation is that scenario. That is why such a war is not occurring in Taiwan Strait. We have Ukraine issues, we have issues in the Middle East. Everywhere there is an issue, but then so it's not, in spite of provocation, a war is not taking place in case of Taiwan. I mean, China is restraining to attack Taiwan. So that is why this significant. Why? What is the dynamics? I call it. It's not my own coinage. It's not coined by me, but scholars who work on Taiwan, they say it's called dynamic equilibrium. We have heard about equilibrium, but in case of Taiwan, it's called dynamic equilibrium. And Taiwan issue itself is, they call it non-negotiable. I mean, the contesting parties, but USA, Taiwan, and China, they will not negotiate about Taiwan. So that is why the status quo continues. So that is in brief, is the Taiwan situation there. But I'm going to now delve into the past. I'm going to delve into the past and we'll trace how the situation has developed. So I'm revisiting history. So please kindly bear with me and it's a very interesting subject. Now, as I said, you must have heard the party called KMT, Kuomintang Party. That is the Nationalist Party of China. Okay. Now, China, has a very great civilization, no doubt about it. I'm talking about the mainland China. When I talk about China, I include, there's the point when both Taiwan and China, they are one part, one country only. And you remember the Qing dynasty, they were ruling. There was warlordism there, imperialism was the Qing dynasty was ruling. And in 1911, the Qing dynasty ended. Ended by whom? It is only KMT party, led by the KMT party, is like our Congress party in China. And its founder was Dr. Sun Yat-sen. Like here in Dr. Mahatma Gandhi, similarly, Sun Yat-sen started this party called the KMT, Kuomintang Party, the Nationalist Party of China. That Nationalist Party of China was responsible for ending the Qing dynasty, the imperialism in China, in mainland China, in 1911. It is just a coincidence. If you talk about circulation, so there's some term called circulatory history. In 1911, the Qing dynasty in China ended and KMT, republicanism came. So the republican form of government came into being in China in 1911, the same year in which the capital in India was shifted from Kolkata to Delhi. So you find there is a parallel circulatory history. Anyway, that's not the topic we are going to talk. Then the KMT, Nationalist Party of China, was ruling the entire China. And you remember, again, I'll tell you, the Communist Party of China was born in 1921. Then after that, there was a infighting, sort of civil war in China between the KMT and the Communist Party of China, CPC. They also, they entered, the Communist Party made a strategic understanding with the KMT, and then they formed a coalition. Because the coalition, but Chinese Communist Party, very intelligently, they used KMT, and then their civil war continued for decades, and finally the KMT was defeated in October 1949. KMT then was led by Chiang Kai-shek. KMT was defeated in the civil war, and the Communist Party of China proclaimed the birth of the Communist China on 1st October 1949. Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan and proclaimed what is called the Republic of China. So there is a distinction between the People's Republic of China, that is the Communist China ruling in Beijing, and Republic of China, the Taiwan, this capital is Taipei. So Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan and proclaimed the what you call Republic of China or Taiwan. Ever since then, there is a strenuous relationship between People's Republic of China and the Republic of China, Taiwan. And USA had been supporting from the beginning. USA had been supporting the KMT from the beginning. And USA even today also, the strongest supporter of Taiwan is United States of America. Now what happens? KMT, the Chiang Kai-shek's regime in Taiwan was very dictatorial. They continued ruling Taiwan, and with the active support of the US, United States of America. And in 1954, both Taiwan and USA signed mutual defense treaty. Between it was signed in 1954 between Taiwan and United States of America. Remember, you will also recall, I think it will help you to understand, USA didn't recognize People's Republic of China. Although People's Republic of China was born in 1949, USA didn't recognize. USA was recognizing Republic of China, that is Taiwan. The USA didn't recognize People's Republic of China. And Taiwan continued to be a member of the United Nations till 1971. Now what happens? As I said earlier, try to understand the history properly. There is a security defense agreement between Taiwan and USA signed in 1954, under which the two countries were under obligation to come to the rescue of other in case one of them is attacked. And of course, China, America, Taiwan cannot come to the rescue of USA. Practically what it meant, in case China attacks Taiwan, USA will come to its rescue. That is that was as per the what you call the security agreement signed between Taiwan and USA in 1954. So that continued, and I again keep in mind that USA had not recognized the People's Republic of China, that Communist China, and China was not a member of the United Nations. It was only the Republic of China, Taiwan, that was the member of the United Nations. So this thing continued, and there was, now because we'll be discussing the Taiwan crisis, you remember that Korean War broke out in the Korean Peninsula in 1950, and during that time there was a fear that perhaps China may also feel provoked to attack Taiwan. It in fact happened in 1958 that China made an attempt to attack Taiwan, and during that period, in 1958, I'm talking about immediately after the Korean War, the USA sent its 7th Fleet to the Taiwan Strait to defend Taiwan. US sent President, I'm forgetting the name of the president, but anyway, that is not important. USA sent the 7th Fleet to Taiwan Strait to defend Taiwan. So the point is that later on we will discuss there is some concept called strategic ambiguity, meaning whether supposing China attacks Taiwan, whether USA will come to its rescue. That is called strategic ambiguity because this is not clarified. I'm moving very systematically, step by step. So everything I will clarify it. Just I'm mentioning about strategic ambiguity here, but later on I'll amplify it more clear, more in a more clarity later. That then what happens? As I said, in one attempt in 1958, China did attack Taiwan, attempted to take over Taiwan by through invasion, which didn't work out because USA came to its rescue by sending the 7th Fleet to Taiwan Strait. You remember in 1971, USA had also deployed the 7th Fleet to Bay of Bengal during the Bangladesh War. That is just the point. Just I made a mention about that. So this relationship, strenuous relationship, continued. Then all of a sudden, this was the relationship in 1969. All of a sudden, USA decided to withdraw naval patrolling from Taiwan Strait. What was the time? Why? It's very significant. There are Henry Kissinger secretly visited Pakistan, and then the US side told Pakistani interlocutor that the USA is withdrawing its naval patrolling in Taiwan Strait, and please convey it to China. So Pakistan was the conduit, its contact point between USA and China. So a very interesting thing you must keep in mind, which is not popularly known. During the secret visit of Henry Kissinger, it was when the USA decided to withdraw the naval patrolling from the Taiwan Strait, and then this decision was communicated to the Pakistani, and the Pakistanis were requested to convey. The Pakistani in turn were requested to convey it to the Chinese. So and then, but then USA, the Taiwan felt rather upset about the decision. But then that was the situation. 69. Then what happens? Look how USA is try to understand the US behavior now. US is our strategic ally, is a different matter. But one needs to understand things in perspective, in correct perspective. So I'm talking about 69, then moves closer. Bangladesh war takes place in 1971. I remember in 71, Henry Kissinger and President Nixon, they visit China. They visited China in October. I think if I'm not mistaken, in October 1971, President Nixon visits China, accompanied by astute diplomat Henry Kissinger, and then they signed what is historically famous Shanghai Communique. Shanghai Communique was signed between USA and China. Okay, so this is very important. I'll discuss about Shanghai Communique in greater detail. The Shanghai Communique was signed in October 1971. Then let me see what are the major contents of the Shanghai Communique. So that is very important. One thing, the Chinese side asserted that Chinese government, Chinese side, they said that Taiwan issue is the most critical issue in the relationship between USA and China. They made it very clear that Taiwan issue is very critical. Further, what they said, Chinese government firmly opposes the creation of one China, one Taiwan, one China, two governments, two Chinas, and independent Taiwan, or advocate that the status of Taiwan remains to be determined. So this is the Chinese version of interpretation of the Shanghai Communique, or what they meant by Shanghai Communique. Their interpretation. I'll repeat once again what they said in the Chinese side said in the Shanghai Communique. They said, Chinese said government firmly opposes the creation of one China, one Taiwan, one China, two governments, two Chinas and independent Taiwan, or advocate that the status of Taiwan remains to be determined. But what is the position of US? The US side acknowledged, the US side acknowledged that there is but one China and that Taiwan is a part of China. Look, they are using the word acknowledge. They are not using the word recognize. The US side acknowledges that there is but one China and that Taiwan is a part of China. Very interesting thing, when you talk of China, even the KMT, the party that ruled Taiwan, because they think that Taiwan belongs to them. I mean, the KMT's perception is that it is one China. Mainland China, Taiwan is one. So it all depends. They say it's China. It further reformed that it is interest. I'll read it once again. The US side acknowledges that there is but one China and that China is part of China. It further reaffirmed its interest in peaceful settlement of the Taiwan question by Chinese themselves. Look, they are using the word peaceful settlement of Taiwan. What is the Chinese say? It is, they will not accept it is future of Taiwan will be determined. So according to the Chinese perspective, the future of Taiwan is already determined. It is already settled. But look at the American interpretation. They say its interest in a peaceful settlement. That means Taiwan issue is not settled. It is yet to be settled. Questioned by the Chinese themselves. Chinese themselves means it could be the Taiwanese, because Chinese means both Taiwanese and Chinese. With this in perspective in mind, it affirms the ultimate objective of the withdrawal of US forces and military installation to Taiwan, because Taiwan, there was military deployment in Taiwan. So the American side says slowly, gradually will withdraw US troops from Taiwan. So that was it. Then, so that was the what you call the Shanghai Communique, signed in October 1971. Okay, 71 years. Then it took about almost more than 7 years later that US recognized People's Republic of China. They established the diplomatic relationship. They established on 1st January 1979. Both USA and China, they established the diplomatic relationship on 1st January 1979. And in the joint communique, it was mentioned that the two sides, the joint communique signed by both China and US, it said the United States of America recognizes the government of the People's Republic of China as the sole legal government of China. They are using the word recognizes. Within this context, the people of the United States will maintain cultural, commercial, and other unofficial relationship with the people of Taiwan, because now they are recognizing the communist China, but still USA will continue to have relationship. They said social, cultural, they are not using the word political, with the people of Taiwan. Obviously, they cannot say with the government of Taiwan, because they are recognizing what you call the People's Republic of China, Communist China. Here, just I'll say something about what is called, there's a distinction between one China principle, which is used by China, and one China policy used by USA. There is a basic difference between one China principle used by China and one China policy used by America, USA. What is the distinction? Distinction is very clear. Distinction is that as per the one China principle, like I'll give you an example. If you recognize the People's Republic of China, then you cannot recognize Republic of China, Taiwan. That is one China principle. I'll give you an example which I wrote an article in Odisha Post only a few days back. The latest country that withdrew recognition to Taiwan is called small country Nauru. Nauru withdrew recognition to China. Withdrew recognition to Taiwan, that is Republic of China, and switched over to China. So that is as per one China principle. USA says we have one China principle. That means we recognize People's Republic of China, but that does not prevent us from having substantive relationship with Republic of China or Taiwan. So that is the difference between one China principle and one China policy of USA. So this is about the thing I have discussed about establishment of the diplomatic relationship. That was in October 19 January 1st 1979, when the diplomatic relationship between the two were established. Actually, before that, I think I just forgot to mention one more point. That is, of course, I discussed about the what you call the China's admission to the United Nations in 1972. 72, yes, it was recognized. Then of course, it took 7 years to establish diplomatic relationship between USA and China. Then after that, there are other developments I'm coming. What is called, Taiwan Relations Act, that's very important. As soon as immediately after the diplomatic relationship between China and USA were established, USA enacted a domestic legislation called Taiwan Relations Act. Very important, because the Taiwanese were concerned now that you have withdrawn recognition from Taiwan and recognized the People's Republic of China. So in order to assuage the feelings and the anxiety of Taiwanese side, US enacted what is called the Taiwan Relations Act. I just read out what are the main contents of the Taiwan Relations Act. Just please hear me. The Taiwan Relations Act clarified that the United States' decision to establish diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China rests upon the expectation that the future of Taiwan will be determined by peaceful means. It further said any efforts to determine the future of Taiwan by other than peaceful means, including by boycott or embargoes or threat to peace and security of the Western Pacific, are matters of concern to the United States. The act also committed to provide Taiwan with arms of a defensive character and to maintain the capacity of the United States to resist any resort to force or other forms of coercion that would jeopardize the security or the social economic systems of the people of Taiwan. The act envisages that the President and the Congress of USA shall determine the nature and quantity of such defense articles and services based solely upon their judgment of the needs of Taiwan. Such determination of Taiwan's defense shall include review by the United States military authorities in connection with the recommendation to the President and the Congress. The USA has repeatedly reiterated its security commitment to the Taiwan under TRA, Taiwan Relations Act, and 6 assurances. So you see, there is a lot of difference. So whatever things were not clarified in the communique when they established diplomatic relations, they were more clarified in the Taiwan Relations Act. So, I'll tell you, one thing is clear. Whereas the China's contention is that the future of Taiwan is already settled, is already decided. Taiwan relations, it is not settled. It is yet to be settled. And settled by whom? By the Taiwanese, by the Chinese people themselves. By peaceful means. I mean, if you don't adopt peaceful means and other means, then USA is under obligation to empower Taiwan so that Taiwan can defend itself. And President of USA, in consultation with the US Congress, they can supply arms ammunition to Taiwan. So very interesting thing. Like, I will rather feel tempted to conclude. There is something called, some concept called military industrial complex. I think USA is a classic example of military industrial complex. Why? Because now there, USA is a corporate sector, the corporate and industry. So as long as the threat to Taiwan continues, they will continue providing arms and ammunition to Taiwan. So that, in a way, supports the military industrial complex in USA. Because so if China threatens Taiwan, then USA is under obligation to provide arms to Taiwan. So that is in a sense, I mean, reinforcing the idea of military industrial complex. So there is a nexus between what you call the military industrial complex, because so I mean, if China threatens, then they will supply. So then they will say, but of course, one thing here I would like to clarify: China doesn't recognize the Taiwan Relations Act and other 6 assurances, which I'll in a minute I'll discuss about those. What are the 6 assurances? What immediately after passing these what you call Taiwan Relations Act, Taiwan also, sorry, the USA also passed what you call 6 assurances. That means they gave 6 assurances to Taiwanese side. What are those assurances? Some of them are like this: that there is no date when they will end supplying arms to Taiwan. So there is no. They will not. They will not. So one more, I think, communique I just forgot to mention. Before USA gave the 6 assurances to Taiwanese, there are some deficiency in the what you call in the earlier 2 communiques signed between China and the USA. That one is the Shanghai Communique, and second communique was the communique establishing diplomatic relations between China and USA. There are some deficiency, like these 2 communiques never mentioned about when USA will stop supplying arms to Taiwan. So that was not there. So as a result of which, in 1982, there is another joint communique signed between China and USA, in which USA committed that slowly and gradually they will reduce supplying arms to Taiwan. But they will not stop it. They will slowly, they will gradually, they will reduce. So that was the communique signed between what do you call between USA and China. It's called the third communique. So every time when there is any when the US's one China policy is questioned, and if US official is asked whether USA will intervene in case China attacks Taiwan, they will avoid the issue. They will only say that our relations with China and Taiwan is governed by these 3 communiques, the Taiwan Relations Act and 6 assurances. That means without without clearly specifying whether USA will come to the defense of Taiwan, they will say our relationship with China, Taiwan is governed by three communiques and the Taiwan Relations Act, also the six assurances. So what are these are what are the six assurances? The six assurances, I'll just tell you. Six assurances were uh, the six assurances were that the USA would not set a date for termination of the arms sales to Taiwan. One. Second, the USA would not alter the terms of the Taiwan Relations Act. Third, the USA would not consult with China in advance before deciding about US arms sales to Taiwan. And finally, the US would not mediate between China and Taiwan. The US would not change its position about sovereignty over Taiwan, and the USA would not formally recognize Chinese sovereignty over Taiwan. So that is those were the six assurances given by uh, given by given by USA to the Taiwanese side. But again, I'll tell you this Taiwan Relations Act, the six assurances, they are not recognized by China. China's contention is that these are domestic legislations and China is not under obligation to honor them. So that was it. Of course, after these, Taiwan Relations Act and also the six assurances, US also passed some of the domestic legislation in relation to Taiwan. One is, Taiwan Travel Act. What is this Taiwan Travel Act? This was signed during the tenure of President Trump. Under this Taiwan Travel Act, that encourages US officials to visit Taiwan, because that is under this act, Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August 1922. Visited because China objects to it, and the USA is under obligation that they will continue having peoples to peoples relationship with Taiwan. They will have a cultural and peoples to peoples contact. They didn't want the political relationship, but Speaker Nancy Pelosi or the senators, members of the US Congress, they can visit. And I'll tell you, being an official from Indian Parliament, I'll say, these legislatures are independent of the executive, at least in theory. In all countries, as you know, there are three organs of the state: executive, legislature, and the judiciary. And now, when you recognize the state entity has recognized China as a state, but that doesn't debar the Congress, the legislators, to visit Taiwan. So that is the interpretation. And similarly, I'll tell you, we India also follow one China policy. We don't recognize Taiwan, we don't recognize Tibet. That is why, MPs, member of parliament, ministers, they cannot visit Taiwan. And also officers above the rank of joint secretary, they cannot visit Taiwan. Because we have one China policy, we recognize People's Republic of China. But for your kind information, when I was in Taiwan, one MP, Mr. Sujit Kumar of BJD, Rajya Sabha MP, he visited Taiwan. And in fact, we are together in Taiwan. So he visited. And he traveled in his diplomatic passport. Of course, without obtaining the sort of clearance from the Ministry of External Affairs, he traveled on diplomatic passport and met even Taiwanese president. So that is about the six assurances. And now we have discussed about situation in the Taiwan Strait. At least, earlier I said that in 1958, after the Korean War, when China attempted to invade Taiwan, US deployed the 7th Fleet. That is one occasion. And also, in another occasion, in 1995 and 96, on two different occasions, US also came to the rescue of Taiwan. The first occasion was when the former president uh, of Taiwan is a product of the Cornell University. He was the president of Taiwan. He went to USA as a reunion event. Cornell University was having the reunion union, and Lee Teng-hui, his name is Lee Teng-hui. He was the president and the product of the Cornell University. He visited USA, and China protested. China protested to the extent that wanted to invade Taiwan. It took place, and in that point of time, US deployed ships to come to the rescue of Taiwan. Similarly, when there was a direct election, president election in 96, again China took initiative to invade Taiwan. Again, the USA come to Taiwan rescue and deployed its naval ship for defense of Taiwan. So the point I'm trying to say is that, we call it what we call strategic ambiguity. All these communiques signed with Taiwan, about Taiwan rather, nowhere is clearly mentioned whether in case China invades Taiwan, whether USA will come to the rescue of Taiwan. It is not mentioned. Whereas, as I said it on 3 occasions, the US has demonstrated its commitment to Taiwan. 158 and 2 occasions in 95 and 96. Similarly, when last occasion, when the fourth crisis is called, when Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August, I was there in Taiwan. That is a very serious issue. And there was a lot of fear that China may invade Taiwan. To some extent, it happened because China fired missiles. I was there, but I got a lot of phone calls and television interviews from India. I gave interviews to. There was a lot of kind of anxiety here in India whether really China is attacking. China did invade, but there was partial blockade of the Taiwan Strait. And missiles were fired, and some missiles will fail in Japan. And the air routes were also diverted. And there are also, cyber attacks in Taiwan. I was there. Many of the sites were hacked in Taiwan. And not only that, China also adopted different other tactics like, coercion, economic sanction. For example, there is a lot of trade between China and Taiwan. All of a sudden, China decided to buy pineapples because Taiwan was supplying Thai pineapples to China. They stopped buying pineapples. Then also they stopped buying what you call groupers, a kind of big pieces. They were buying from Taiwan. They stopped it. So China adopted all sorts of tactics, special tactics, just to intimidate Taiwan, but it didn't work out. So Nancy Pelosi's visit was kept a close guarded secret, and when she traveled to Taiwan, it was guarded in the air by aircrafts, and also in the sea. It was there. So it was a value. And see, it was not declared. Only the Financial Times of London towards the end only declared it. And see, in the midnight landed in Taiwan in a different airport, not the Taiwan airport. See, the flight of the Nancy Pelosi landed in a different airport. And she was hardly there for 19 hours. And after that, China started live fire drills in Taiwan Strait. And Taiwan Strait was broken. What is called median line is the unofficial line that divides the jurisdiction of the China and Taiwan. That was also broken, and the Chinese naval ships, they crossed the median line, and also in the air, the Chinese airplanes crossed what we call air defense identification zone. So that is a very critical time. Besides, of course, as I said about cyber attacks and economic coercion, all sorts of things happened, but it was manageable. Like I myself was there in Taiwan. I was traveling from Taichung by the high-speed rail to Taiwan, and I got so many phone calls. I said, no, nothing of the sort is happening here. although missiles were fired and everything was there, but then it is not a sort of. That is why I tell you this concept of what is called dynamic equilibrium. There are two concepts one must keep in mind. One is that Taiwan continues to be a non-negotiable issue in the trilateral relation between the three, and there is dynamic equilibrium. That is why, and now we'll also discuss other issues. Like, for example, what are the implications? Can China attack Taiwan? What are the limitations? Because as I said, Taiwan Strait separates mainland China from Taiwan. In case China intends to invade Taiwan, it has to be what is called amphibious war. That means the Chinese PLA army had to cross the Taiwan Strait to reach Taiwan. Then only it's possible. And for that, China should have the naval capability. And second limitation is that, Taiwan is very hilly area. So the Chinese PLA army may not be able to fight a war against the Taiwanese in that area. One is it has to be amphibious war, and then fight, and Taiwan is also in the meanwhile has developed its own capability to defend Taiwan and to deter a Chinese attack. They've started developing submarines, they are developing missiles, and on the top of it, USA will come to its rescue. USA can deploy its forces. Now there is Indo-Pacific issue also comes. Now the Quad issue is coming, the AUKUS issue is coming. So all these countries like Japan, for example. Now what are the major members of the Quad? It is USA, Japan, Japan, Australia, and India. Excepting India, all these countries have openly said they are the members of AUKUS, even Australia, UK, and America AUKUS. So all these democratic countries, they are united in case China attacks Taiwan. They want to come to the rescue of Taiwan. So there is a fear. First of all, it has to be an amphibious war. They have to cross the Taiwan Strait to reach Taiwan. Secondly, the topography of Taiwan is such that they cannot simply reach Taiwan and then fight. And Taiwan army itself is also in the middle developing its capability. And finally and lastly, the USA will come to the rescue of Taiwan. So these are the limitation factors. Secondly, mind it, in case there is such a thing can happen, it is going to be a disastrous sort of it's sort of a third world war. Because on the one side you will have China, and on the other side you find the Democratic Alliance led by the USA. And even I tell you, when I'm speaking here as an Indian, I'll say what is the India's position. You may ask, the common question is that what is the India's position? Okay, we do not have the diplomatic relations with Taiwan, but still we have articulated when Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan and there was crisis in the Taiwan Strait, India articulated its nuanced position. Its calibrated response to Taiwan was that unilateral change, unilateral alteration of the medial line is not acceptable without naming Taiwan. So that was articulated. Unilateral alteration of the medial line is not acceptable. And also another articulation was that militarization of Taiwanese state is not acceptable. So India, even though we do not have a diplomatic relationship, in a very nuanced and very guarded statement was issued by our spokesperson in India, and that was the position. So I don't know. I'm sure that government of India must have an sort of contingency plan. Supposing China attacks. Now the common adversary is China. Common adversary to both Taiwan and India is China. So I think there must be a plan in action plan. Supposing China attacks Taiwan, what should be the India's stance? We are not. To that extent, we are opening up because we have undisputed border with China, and we have diplomatic relations with China, and we have one China policy. So there is a limitation to articulate India's commitment to Taiwan. But then otherwise, I mean, in a very nuanced manner, India has articulated its position. And now, second thing is that I want to, before I conclude, semiconductor industry. For, as I said earlier, Taiwan is the leading semiconductor manufacturer of the world. Now, supposing 90% of semiconductors are manufactured in Taiwan, and semiconductor is key to our industry, be it automobile, be it your what do you call smartphone. So everywhere you need the semiconductors. So now the semiconductor industry suffers in Taiwan, it will affect world economy like anything. So, and supposing, and why I say there can be a, I mean, attack on Taiwan can lead to a sort of third world war. Reason being, suppose China is successful in invading Taiwan and capturing Taiwan, it is going to be a disaster and it's sort of world war. And now, my argument is that supposing there is such kind of scenario, China attacks Taiwan and captures, and there is a sort of world war, and still there is a lot of military gap between China and Taiwan. Okay, China may be successful in capturing Taiwan, but at the cost of the defeat of the Communist Party. Communist Party forever will be defeated. Communist Party cannot hope to rule China because there will be defeat of, and then for all time to come, the Communist Party will end. Supposing in a hypothetical situation, China is able to attack Taiwan and there is a scenario and then it's defeated. So that is the reason why China will never dare to attack Taiwan, because its consequences will be disaster. No wonder why we do not have, Taiwan is not like Ukraine or like the Middle East. Such a thing is not taking place. It won't take place. So that's simply, but still, I mean, it is a continued objective of China to take over, to take, it is written in their constitution, and Chinese leaders from time to time, they reiterate their objective of getting united with the Taiwan. They do, but they, it's like, like Bharatiya Janata Party talking about Ayodhya, like, when they say they want to reunification with the Taiwan, they are playing to the domestic gallery in China, because otherwise they have nothing to say. So all the leaders, they will continue reiterating their commitment to get reunited with Taiwan. But then when it comes to really, but they still there are possibility. There are some people say that in this 2027 the what you call the PLA will be completing 100 years of its existence in China. So people, they have the tentative figure that in 2027 China may attack Taiwan and take over. Right now, Chinese economy is too precarious. China is not in a position to invade Taiwan and take over, because Chinese economy itself is passing through a very critical time. So there is some thinking that perhaps in 2027, China, Taiwan may attack. Other groups say maybe in 2049. But there are other people say the present leader Xi Jinping may try to, in order to be remembered in history, may try to invade Taiwan and capture Taiwan during his lifetime. So there are people also make comparison with Hong Kong, but Hong Kong was a totally different issue. Here again, I'll tell you, I must, before I conclude, one or two things I must say, that in case Hong Kong was under the treaty obligation, there are 99 years of treaty was signed with the United States of United Kingdom, and that treaty expired on 1st July 1997. So that is why Hong Kong was reverted back to China. But there is no such treaty obligation so that is not comparable. Second thing I thought of sharing is with that the Chinese had offered this one country two system, which is applicable, which they have applied in case of Hong Kong, in case of Taiwan. the Taiwanese leadership, especially the present leadership, DPP, Democratic Progressive Party, they have rejected the offer. They said nothing doing. Taiwan is an independent, sovereign country, and we are used to democratic values, democratic culture. So we can have relationship, people to people's contract, everything is fine. But then the country to system is not not a choice for the Taiwanese people. And now the present generation Taiwan, they're new people. They analyze the demographic profile of the Taiwan people, most of them are born after 1949. So they are used to a democratic culture. Only few people, surviving people, they are of the original Chinese origin who migrated from mainland China to Taiwan. So their number is minuscule. So there is popular sentiment is there that Taiwan is an independent country, will continue to be independent. So both the parties, major parties, the KMT and the DPP, they also make a distance from the, and they make it clear, because if they want to identify, if the KMT beyond a point why they want to identify with the China, then they lose votes. So they make a distance from China. So I conclude here. The latest position is that in the last election, which was held on 13th of January last month, in which the Democratic Progressive Party, led by the President Tsai Ing-wen, they won the election, and in their parliament, it's called the Legislative Yuan, the DPP got 51 seats, and the opposition party KMT got 52 votes, 1 vote more than the ruling party. There's a third party called Taiwan People's Party. They got 8 votes. Mind it, they have a typical political system. It's called the president is directly elected by the people, and the members of the parliament called Legislative Yuan, they were also elected directly by the people. And there is a prime minister who will be appointed by president belonging to the majority party. So now there is a legislative logjam, in the sense the president is there but without majority in the parliament. Other parties are there. Recently, the election of the speaker took place 2 days back, in which their nominee of the KMT Kuomintang party won the speaker's post. Speaker post is very critical there. So this present the challenges before the new president will be how to manage and pass legislation there. So let us see, watch out what is happening there. I have written on this aspect in Taiwanese newspapers like Taipei Times and other places. Last one I wrote also in the Odisha Post. So you can Google my name, Rup Narayan Das, that you can see my articles on Taiwan. I conclude here. Thank you, Professor Nachiketa Sharma, for this opportunity to share my thoughts and idea on a very important subject. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for a very insightful lecture, which is very analytic, and you have spoken extensively. I think we have maybe 5 to 7 minutes. We can take few questions. I have a doubt, sir. Historically speaking, can we say that whether in any part of history Taiwan was separate from China, or it was some kind of a province of China? That is number one. And number two, unlike India, other country, Taiwan have embassy in other countries of world or not?
Yeah, a very good question. I think I'll answer your last question first. As I said, as of now, Taiwan has only 12 diplomatic allies. When I say diplomatic allies, means they have diplomatic relations with the 12 countries. Taiwan. Initially, as I said, most countries had recognized, and after UN, after withdrawal of the Taiwan from the United Nations, many countries they switched sides. So now, but still, Taiwan has what you call substantive relationship with many countries, including in India. We do not have a diplomatic relationship, so that is why we do not call their ambassador here. We call it representative. Their ambassador, because of Taiwan is representative. not the ambassador. And that is why they are not given many kind of a sort of privileges. So that is the grouch of the Taiwanese side. The kind of respect which were given to other ambassadors is not given, because we have a substantive relationship with Taiwan, not a diplomatic relationship with Taiwan. But still, but Taiwan, I tell you, when there is pro-China KMT was ruling Taiwan, the diplomatic allies of the Taiwan had increased to 22 countries, because the KMT party was friendly towards China, and but China has now threatened that it will take away all its remaining 12 members, and it was before Nauru left Taiwan, it was 13, and now latest is Tuvalu. There is another country called Tuvalu. There recently election was there. Now a lot of pressure by Chinese side to take away Tuvalu. The last government before Nauru was called Honduras. So the small Pacific and countries, they are the diplomatic allies of the Taiwan. And now I think it is already about more than a week or so. I think the Chinese are not able to what you call poach uh, another more diplomatic from Taiwanese side to Chinese side. It's not happening. And regarding your earlier question, yes, Taiwan is a separate country. I won't say from the beginning. It was a part of the mainland China, and the Taiwan as an independent country was proclaimed only after Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan. But one thing is China, mainland China has never, the communist China, which came to power in Beijing on 1st October 1949, the communist regime had never ruled Taiwan. So Taiwan, ever since its birth, continues to be an independent and sovereign country.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We have got another question in the chat box, and two people have raised their hands. So let me take one question first. How does just a long questions, I think. How does what is that? Just do it, sir. How does the international community view and respond to the maritime challenges in the Taiwan Strait? And the second questions, maybe you can, if you can combine. Sir, as we know, Taiwan is a significant manufacturing hub for Western nations, especially in semiconductor production. These days, the dispute over Taiwan's status has become more heated amid the US attempts to block China's access to the advanced chips, and this year, China has pursued the development of its own cable network connecting to Asia and Europe to challenge US tech giants. So, are we going to face any controversy in future time with the United States? So these are the two questions in the chat box, sir.
Yeah. Regarding this semiconductor industry, and USA has passed a sort of not laws, but initially got what they call it, the CHIPS Act. CHIPS Act, which USA has passed. There are many of the US companies, they are manufacturing semiconductor in China, mainland China. Now, as part of the new CHIPS Act, which is passed by the USA, the USA will punish the American companies who will continue manufacturing the advanced semiconductors in China. In its place, rather, USA will reward and give incentive to US companies who will manufacture semiconductors in Korea, Taiwan, and elsewhere. And now India has also taken a lead, and India is also now the Foxconn of the Taiwan. They've agreed to manufacture semiconductor in India. The work is going on, and in one place in Gujarat, they have started the factory. They will start manufacturing sometime later. So that is one part of the, so far as semiconductor is concerned. Then one more question you say asked about.
Yes, sir. Should I repeat it? Read
Can
out
you,
it?
read out, please?
Okay, just wait, sir. How does the international community
Oh,
view and
yes, yes.
respond to
I
the
am also,
maritime challenges in the
yeah,
Taiwan
yeah.
Strait?
No, it is already happening. I tell you, it is
Yes,
already
yes, yes,
happening.
yes.
Like for example, I said about the AKUs, I spoke about the Quad and even the G7 countries. They have repeatedly extended their support to Taiwan courts. So I think they have already, and now the USA is also strengthening its naval presence in Philippines nearby, and Japan has publicly articulated that an attack on Taiwan will be an attack on Japan. So Japan and USA, they are the strongest allies of the Taiwan. Now the Australia is also there, New Zealand is there, USA, Canada. So they, these countries, they are also doing regular, what do you call, naval. They pass through the Taiwan Strait. Their ships are also to ensure freedom of navigation. These ships of the belonging to Canada, Germany. So all the developed Western countries, they are really united against China. So in case of Taiwan, so there is an international coalition against Taiwan, so against China. So that is my take.
Okay. Sir, this may sound a little bit controversial, but just if you like, you can answer. I think somehow the calibrated diplomatic response of India, does it keep us in good stead in diplomatic relations? Somehow we don't take sides, and we always want to maintain the through a jugglery of words in our
Yeah,
calibrated
no, I
response.
have understood it.
Huh.
See, we have a difficult neighbor, China, and I
Huh.
just said we have a pending border dispute with China, and I follow the Taiwanese media where I'm a regular contributor. I've written extensively. I'm respected in Taiwanese media for that. They understand India's limitations. And you see, I mean, the people's to people's contact is excellent, and there is a support for Taiwan in Parliament even that is happening, and even recently one of the articles of the Prime Minister Modi was published in Taipei Times. So I mean, and then indirectly we are also helping Taiwan in so many ways. For example, I'll give you how we have shown our solidarity with Taiwan. During the COVID time, when China provided this COVID medicine, we didn't accept it. Whereas when Taiwan provided, we accepted it. And Paraguay is another diplomatic ally of the Taiwan. When we, and we provided COVID medicine to Paraguay, a close diplomatic ally of Taiwan. And so similar ways, like there was some accident in Taiwan, and then MEA also expressed its condolences for the death in Taiwan. So indirectly we are conveying it. It has to be nuanced, and they understand it. So what is important is that we may not openly say, but if we have more economic relationship with Taiwan, that strengthens Taiwanese economy. That is one way helping Taiwan, which is happening now. Okay, militarily it cannot happen. And we do not know, for example, many of the private sectors are there into space. Who knows? Into shipbuilding. So maybe that, if you cannot have a government to government contract, maybe the private sector can play an important role in like launching the satellites or in space technology. It is possible. And recently, indirectly, I tell you, the chairman of the Foxconn company, is given Padma Bhushan Award, and it's a Taiwanese company. So that is a very big recognition to of Taiwan. Okay, we do not have diplomatic recognition, but we are conferring India's covetous award to a Taiwanese leader. So that these are the ways in which we can show our solidarity to Taiwan. That's it.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this scintillating lecture and very absorbing question answer session. On behalf of the university and the outreach cell, I am extending a warm gratitude to you, sir. Thank you very much. And I hope that this lecture will be made into a very good book chapter, which is expected to come out in April or May. And I'm sorry that this is the book that the speaker has presented me, the Hong Kong Conundrum, Pages of Transition. And he has requested for an ODI translation of it. Maybe possible in 2025, we will take up this great work. And with these words, I am again, on behalf of everybody, I am again, we are we are full of gratitude for this beautiful lecture. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Shiva. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The meeting is over now.
Thank you. Thank you. कोणी मग घेण्यास जाईल व कोणी जाई घे असली हा ଅସୁବିଧା କାଲି ବି ଦରକାର କଣ କରିବ ସବୁ